Welcome back. Israel's ceasefire with Iran-backed Hezbollah going into effect at 4 a.m. local time. Israel's security cabinet signing off on the deal brokered by the U.S. and France yesterday. This agreement includes a 60-day pause in fighting. It requires Hezbollah to end its armed presence in southern Lebanon, where the Lebanese army will take control as the Israeli Defense Group returns to the Israeli side of the border. President Biden says the U.S. will make another push for a ceasefire deal in Gaza in coming days. Joining me now is Fox News contributor, national security analyst, and drone expert, former military intelligence and former Army Special Ops, Brett Velicovich. Brett, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Hey, Maria. Good to see you.
So give us your reaction to this ceasefire agreement for Hezbollah in Lebanon, how it compares to a potential ceasefire in Gaza.
Well, clearly with Israel launching intense airstrikes on Beirut, within the last 24 hours, they wanted to send a strong message to Hezbollah prior to this ceasefire deal. I mean, they know it's difficult to sustain a war on multiple fronts, especially with what they have going on in Gaza, but they have set Hezbollah back decades. And frankly, Israel's doing our job for us, and I applaud their actions in the region as it's good strategically for our country. Lebanon and Hezbollah understand they simply can't survive a war with Israel. The Israelis have very good intelligence. They've proven this by taking out leader after leader, all the way from the top down from Nasrallah. But this ceasefire deal, I think it's a relief for a lot of people, not just on the Lebanese side. Hezbollah has fired thousands of rockets, missiles, and drones into Israel. The deal is really meant to secure Israel from the threat of Hezbollah in the future by pushing them to the north of the Litani River and replacing any of the Hezbollah fighters in the area with Lebanese armed forces, who can make sure Hezbollah's infrastructure is removed. But we'll see if the ceasefire holds. Hezbollah is notorious for violating deals. One of the reasons Israel even went in there is because Hezbollah violated a previous resolution in 2006 where they promised to clear that same area south of the Litani from any armed personnel or weapons, which they clearly didn't do. And plus, Hezbollah still answers to Iran, so only time will tell if the ceasefire is going to hold.
Well, that's a good point, that they always violate the ceasefire agreements. What does this mean for Iran, Brett? Because, now the Israelis are saying, keep the focus on Iran. Iran has been obviously funding all these guys, Hezbollah and Hamas. So where does Iran stand in all of this?
Well, I think Iran sees this as an opportunity to reset their forces. But make no mistake, they're still going to be coming after Israel and the U.S. for a long time. They are engaged in a proxy war in many different countries. It's not just Lebanon, right? They have forces in Yemen, they have forces in Iraq and Syria. And so they are the puppet masters with all of this. And so I think they see this as a chance to potentially reset Hezbollah, equip them again, and eventually send them back out to conduct more operations. But Iran in the end is really the group that we need to be going after. And I hope that when President Trump comes in office, he loosens the handcuffs on our elements to be able to go after them in different ways as well.
So how do you want to go after them in different ways? And do you expect Trump to put his maximum pressure campaign back in place against Iran?
I think he will. I mean, the fact is, when Trump was in office the last time, Iran was not operating at the same level. They took a lot of their money away, which is the basis for how Iran is able to fund these terrorist organizations. And I think he's going to exert that maximum pressure. And frankly, Iran's probably pretty scared right now. They're not sure what to do. So I hope that, again, President Trump exerts that maximum pressure to stop Iran from exporting terrorism around the world. And look at what they've been trying to do in the U.S. There were recent reports that they were going to try and conduct an assassination attempt on President Trump. And so they are very, very dangerous, and everything we can do to stop them from exporting terrorism, we need to do that.
Yeah, let's talk about the other bully in the neighborhood, and that's Russia. It fired its largest drone attack against Ukraine yesterday. It's the largest since the start of the war. The Kremlin launched a record 188 drones that hit key water and energy facilities, as a top NATO military official warning businesses to be prepared for a wartime scenario by adjusting production and distribution lines to be less vulnerable to Russia and China blackmail. Brett, what about that, the blackmail? Russian President Vladimir Putin's foreign intelligence chief is also claiming that Russia is opposed to simply freezing the war with Ukraine because Moscow needs a, quote, solid and long-term peace that resolves the conflict. Brett, your reaction?
Well, I hope they're not lying about that. Everyone wants peace. They want this war to end. It's looking very dire in Ukraine right now. I just returned from the capital there a couple weeks ago, and Ukraine's infrastructure is getting hammered every single night at a level I've never seen before. And this I believe, is the result of Putin taking advantage of the world turning its attention away from Ukraine. We're so focused on our elections, we're focused on Israel, and this gives Putin really an opening to continue his destruction. Plus, Americans have Ukraine fatigue, but the fact is innocent people are dying there every single day, and Putin believes more than likely at some point there's going to be a negotiation, so he wants to hammer Ukraine enough to give him the upper hand. He believes the more territory he can take now, the more he can put Ukraine in a position of being very vulnerable, the more territory then he can claim during these negotiations. And personally, I think President Trump needs to step in now, even before taking office, and start setting the conditions to stop it. Because for one, Biden just isn't doing enough. No one's listening to him since he's on his way out. Their effect on this war, we just need a dramatic shift from what the Biden administration has been doing over there. It's simply not working and hasn't been working for years. And two, you've got a lot of civilians dying over there. And I have friends right now that literally have their power and internet turned off at 6 p.m. every single night. They're forced to sit in their cold apartments without power, waiting until morning. Meanwhile, every single night, they're taking drone strikes in the capital from Iranian drones that have been provided to the Russians. And I saw this firsthand. So it's a very brutal, it's a very horrific war. And President Trump right now is exactly what Ukraine needs to stop this. And I know he's going to honor his promise to restore America's strength and end this war quickly.
Well, look, there are limitations that he can do. There are limits that he can make, before he actually gets sworn in. So, but you mentioned something really important in these drones, because unidentified drones were spotted flying over 3 bases in England used by the United States Air Force. They were seen hovering around the Royal Air Force's Mildenhall, Feltwell, and the Lakenheath bases in eastern England. Lakenheath is home to America's 48th Fighter Wing, a cornerstone of the U.S. Air Force's combat capability in Europe. Now, it's unclear if the drones had hostile intent, but the U.K. has deployed about 60 troops to help determine who's behind them. And remember, last December, the U.S. reported an unidentified fleet of drones flying near Langley Air Force Base in Virginia for 17 days, leaving the Pentagon stumped. I'm still not buying the fact that they claim the Pentagon still doesn't know whose drones they were for 17 days. Is that even possible? The Pentagon doesn't know whose drones they are?
You're exactly right. I mean, I'm really scratching my head on this one, Maria, because I know how easy it is to stop this. I just think we don't have very bright people in the upper echelons of our government that know what they're doing, especially when it comes to anti-drone systems that exist right now to do that. You've got surveillance drones that are flying around these military bases, which are designed to gather a pattern of life on target, to understand what's going on there. I don't understand, frankly, why the topic isn't getting much more coverage. We can't even shoot them down, frankly, because we've got a lot of archaic laws in our own country, but it's definitely foreign governments testing us. They're testing our response. They want to see if they can get away with it, and they did. I mean, just look at the Chinese spy balloons that were circling our atmosphere that took our government years to figure out. We have the capability to detect this. We have the capability to stop it, and the government needs to hire the right people to get this done.
Well, maybe they know who it is. They know it's China, but they don't want to say it. Because then the next question is, how did you respond? And they don't want to respond.
Exactly. I think our government officials probably aren't telling us because they're embarrassed, and they should be embarrassed. No one at the higher level seemed to be listening. And what are we going to wait for, a drone attack on our borders before we do something about it?
Brett, thank you. We'll be watching all of this. Great insight from you, as usual. Brett Velicovich joining us. Thank you, sir. Quick break, and then Americans are